Hello and big welcome to the show. Our topic today, have our children lost their innocence? Let's meet our guests in the chest. Pat, you start off. What is innocence?
Well, it's having nothing overshadowing you. You grow up at your own rate, at your own time. It's when life's being lived without guilt. Innocence is goodwill on the part of everybody.
A time when you believe that the good will always win, that the world is fair, and that anybody actually cares about what is fair.
I think it's naivety, pure, harmless, can do no wrong, non-judgmental.
Well, some interesting thoughts. Let's get personal. Elizabeth, can you describe your own experience of growing up for us?
Well, I was brought up in the age of innocence, and I would say my opinions of the world only changed when I was about 17 to 19. I suppose it changed when I went to work.
I was brought up very strictly, seen and not heard. We didn't have much and entertained ourselves outside in the fresh air.
I grew up as an army brat. The big thing for me was that the only people you knew were the ones you saw every day. You had to go down the road to make a phone call. You had nothing coming in at you from any other media.
I grew up in a rural community, one of 5 boys, where people knew the family and were involved in events in the village.
Growing up, I learned a lot from my older brother. If he was naughty and got told off, I'd do the reverse.
Fascinating stuff. So, how do you think the modern world impacts on children growing up today?
Most young children I know can use an iPad before they can speak.
I feel that children have to grow up much faster than before. You only have to look at children's TV programs. Everything is about learning and political correctness. It seems to me the fun has been taken out of it.
At work, we have to consistently think about the age appropriateness of a garment. For example, making dresses shorter for the older girl, which is seen as given. We sell widely throughout the world, and in our Middle East markets, where conservatism is still dominant, we make dresses longer.
Everything nowadays is talked about in front of kids. Relationships, poor diet, lack of exercise and sleep.
Technology has given children more access to information, but has also made them lazy. How many times have you been speaking to a child when they start texting midway through?
All in all, the modern world is not as good for young children as it used to be even 50 years ago. The difference is technology and also people's greed. Technology is terribly positive in ever so many ways because you can keep in contact with people. Support networks, for example. But unless you use them with consideration and care, they can be damaging, they can be bullying, they can be used when it's actually not a good moment.
Guests, who do you think should be responsible for deciding when a child becomes an adult?
I don't think it is up to one person to decide. I think there are many people and changes in society that make a difference.
Only those in power can decide when a child becomes an adult, as they create the laws which apply to the whole of society. It cannot be an individual decision, as while some 14-year-olds feel they are capable adults, others at 40 still think like children.
Depends on the child. If the child is thought of as responsible, then the parents should reflect that with trust.
In my view, you may legally be an adult, but mentally you may not. I'm an adult. I'm not quite sure when I will, if ever, grow up.
Should be the parents, but it seems to me a lot of the parents are not capable of looking after their children.
Overall, no one should decide this should happen naturally. Kids should be given the chance to be kids.
And finally, what do you think childhood will look like in 20 years?
This is the hardest question of all because I really dread to think there is so much pressure on kids these days. Where will the jobs come from? Crime rates are high and drug and alcohol abuse is rife.
That's a pretty difficult question for me, as I will be dead and gone if not pretty near. Communication will be more responsive, but with not enough space for consideration.
I think it will remain fundamentally the same, but maybe with more gadgets and must-haves to be in with the crowd, as much as a further lack of respect for authority.
Oh my goodness, it looks awfully bleak.
I think whatever age children will find a way to have their childhood in their era.
That's all we have time for today. Join us next week for another episode of Guest in the Chest.